your host of the Across the Cowboys podcast. If you're new to the show, thank you for joining us. And to our regular listeners, welcome back. Tonight's show will look a little different without Mike in the guest chair tonight, but the show must go on. Thankfully, the conductor of the Jake Ferguson hype train, Mr. Brenden Fergy Smith, is here with me tonight. Brenden, how are you?
I'm doing great. This will help distract me from hopefully the Rangers winning tonight against the. I forgot who we're playing, honestly.
White Sox.
Yeah. Oh, I was right then. I just didn't want to think Tigers for some reason. I was in some crappy team, but whatever. If we lose, I'm gonna be sad.
Well, Brenden, sir, before we get into a Rangers rant, where can we find you on X?
You can find me at Brenden_Smith26.
I am Paul Ryan. You can find me on X at Paul_Ryan15. We are just days away from the start of training camp. Last week, we brought back our series Cowboys Beef, and Dre Driven was our guest. You can find him on X at Dre Driven83. And here we are with episode 2, and I'm very excited for tonight's guest. Writer for the Cowboys Wire, Disney aficionado, and the greatest co-host in the world, who was supposed to turn off his cam, Mr. Mike the Pig Crum is here with us tonight as the guest. Mike, how are you?
I'm here, but I if I try to turn off the cam right now, dude, I'm going to go through what I've done today, and then you're going to be like, yeah, just leave the cam on, dude. You'll never get back on.
Yeah, well, Mike, man, I know you've had a long day. Talk to us about it, man.
Went to bed at 1 a.m., got up at 4, fed 5 dogs, fed the kitten, 4 or 5 other cats come over while I'm feeding the kitten, shower, eat breakfast, go to Home Depot, get paint, clean up after painting, go out, prep the food for dinner, start a wall with a new gate out here with cement and stuff, find out I have the wrong cement, back to Home Depot, have to get mortar cement, 80-pound bags, come back, make dinner, eat, get my next article set up, like the outline ready, and then prep for the show, get on, and then after this, I'll go do a little bike workout if I can move at all, and then I will probably collapse watching whatever the next X-Men movie is, waiting for Thursday.
Well, Mike, with all that heavy lifting and moving around, are you still doing Meatless Monday, or are you looking to have some meat for that protein to help you get through the day?
My reset goes in this week, so I have to use stuff that I have right now. So I didn't even know it was Monday, dude. I don't. It's all running together. I made steak tacos that were, oh my god! I made a homemade salsa verde, and I marinated in that for a few hours, and then I seasoned it with salt and pepper, grilled it. I made like an elote, but instead of the corn on the cob, I cut the corn off. And that I put on top of the steak. I put the salsa verde that I marinated. I left some outside of the marinade. Obviously, it doesn't have raw meat in it. I topped it with that and a little bit of a queso fresco and cilantro. And they were so good. Oh, my God. Food coma.
I am now starving, Mike.
It was a 2-day process, but it was a 2-day process because I was so tired yesterday that I couldn't cook. And then I got up and did all this stuff today, and I'm like, I just got to get it. I got to get it done so I can go on my reset. I got to use the stuff out in my fridge.
Man, good steak fajitas, when they hit like no other, man.
So great. It's the elote part. Half sour cream, half mayo, 2 limes, zest and juice, chili powder, cumin, coriander, salt, pepper, cilantro, and then roasted corn that you chop off and off the cob after you roast it, and put it in mixed up, and then half of the package of queso fresco. I could have ate that just with tortilla chips. Honestly, I needed nothing else but that.
Sounds amazing. Well, before we get onto a food rant, Mike, where can we find you on X?
At CD Piglet, guys, nice and easy.
Okay, Mike, let's go ahead and get after it, man. I know the answer to this question, but for those who don't, what led to you becoming a Cowboys fan?
Jimmy Johnson. I followed Jimmy. I was a Miami fan. I wasn't the best kid, even young. Before I was a teenager, I was betting on games and kind of doing stuff with a bookie. And so I was really into that team in Miami. And I followed him to Dallas, and they went 1-15. the first year I ever watched them, so that was brutal. But then they went on their run, and you kind of, I was a teenager during those years, and so you kind of like just, wow, my team's going to win forever, 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. We're the best franchise in the world. And then we didn't win the next like 30 years. So, yeah, that's fun.
Harsh reminder, man.
This is going to be our first 2-hour episode.
No, it will not. I promise.
Well, Mike, what is your favorite Cowboys memory?
Blowing out the Bills, first Super Bowl, Jimmy Johnson wiping them out. And it's funny because it really is a happy memory because it didn't matter because the blowout, but the Don Beebe, Leon Lett, him knocking the ball out, for me, that was always a great memory because people are like, how's that a good memory? Like it stopped us from breaking red. I was like, dude, we were up so much. Nobody cared. That cost us a touchdown. And everybody was like, oh, who cares? Because we were wiping them out. So, yeah, that's my favorite memory, Dallas, watching them just annihilate Buffalo.
Who is your all-time favorite Cowboys player?
Michael Irvin, the playmaker. Easily.
Oh, you might say that.
Him and Magic Johnson are my 2 favorite athletes of all time. So they're, yeah, no doubt.
Which 4 players are on your Cowboys Mount Rushmore?
The 4 in the, all right. So I didn't watch them play, but I'm a history buff of the game. So I've gone back, studied stuff like that. Landry and Staubach got to be on. Like those 2 just have to be. There is no Cowboys, Americans team, any of that without them. And since one of them is a coach and one of them is a quarterback, I'm not putting Troy or Jimmy on there because we already got a coach, we already got a quarterback. So I'm going to go my guy, the playmaker. I think he's the 88. Like there was Drew Pearson was 88 before him, but he wasn't the 88. Michael Irvin is when 88 became 88. And then we went back and was like, oh yeah, Drew Pearson was 88 too. Like nobody was talking about 88s from Drew Pearson as great as he was. And then Emmett, of course, has to be on there. If you're talking my like favorite players, there'd probably be more Larry Allen would probably be up there. There'd probably be more Troy Aikman. But the real legitimate, like the 4, Landry, Staubach, Emmett, and Michael Irvin.
No defensive love at all.
Yeah, because it's hard because Charles Haley was more of a 49er. You could put Darren Woodson up there. DeMarcus Ware didn't win a title, so I'm not putting him up there. So it's hard to
Bob Lilly,
yeah, but that was Staubach Landry. Anything pre-90s for me is going to be Staubach Landry because that was the 2 staples, that quarterback and that coach. Nobody goes back and is like, Patriots, who are you thinking about? And they're like, Richard Seymour. Like, yeah, he was great, but it's Brady Belichick. Like, we know what that was. So, I didn't give any defenders. It would have been offensive line would have been next. Probably the next 3 would have been offensive linemen.
Very fair, man. Can't go wrong either way. Of all the players the Cowboys lost in free agency, or excuse me, what was your favorite offseason move by the Cowboys?
I know why you want to skip that one. Because, like.
Just combine the 2, honestly.
I would say the way they handled the running back. They went a little further than even a guy like me who's like, you ain't got to pay a running back, I would have got like something, but I do like that they finally are like, we're not franchise tagging a running back. We're not signing a big deal or a running back. We're going to fix the offensive line. And then hopefully the play calling is better because that's the next thing. And then the third thing is your back. That's the luxury. That's when you break big runs and have, like super duper running game. But your first thing's O-line and play calling. How creative can you be with the run? So it was nice to not have a $15 million back declining and you got to shit on a player that you really love because he gave his body to you. You got to be like, we're giving this guy $15 million. He can't run for 4 yards. Like he's not that dude. You got to crap on him, and that sucks. And then Pollard's coming off an injury, and like Dallas loves to do, They give a bunch of money to an injured player, and it it just didn't work out great last year. It was more the offensive line than Pollard, but that's the point. Like, you can have a back who was one of the most efficient running backs in all of football the last 2 years prior, and if your offensive line's no good, you can't run. So, I just love the way they handled the running back room. It's such a better thought process. Like, the analytics got to him was like, stop paying people. It's not about your running back. Fix the O-line, play better play calls, and you'll have – who had the worst running back room in the league last year according to PFF? This year it's us. You guys know that, right? We have the worst running back room. Do you know who it was last year at this time of year before the season started? You know who had the worst running back room according to PFF? The Rams. The Rams, who obviously ended up being incredible because they're the young kid they had, and McVay knows how to call run plays. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, Dallas is, if BB and Guyton can play and Terrence Steele's back to 2022 Terrence Steele, this team will be a top half of the league running team, even with the no running backs. It will affect them zero.
Yeah.
Can I have a full episode of if Chuma Edoga gets the starting job? Can I have like a full episode of just absolutely ranting?
It will not happen.
Absolutely.
It will not. It's malpractice.
I want to say, Brendan's bashing every week. I won't have to say anything. I'll have to shake my head yes, and like, okay, cool, and we just go on to the next subject because it's going to be obvious who I'm going to be screaming at.
It would make zero sense to put a player the caliber of Chuma Edoga starting over a young first-round pick with all the measurables and the quickness that you could ask for that just needs playing time. It would be malpractice. Anybody that's beating Guyton, anybody that beats Guyton on a rep will just as easily beat Edoga on a rep every time. So it would make
and guess what? Edoga can get beat if he doesn't try to block him. You gotta think about that. That pass block win rate is gonna be insane because he's just gonna help double team for Tyler Smith the entire time. All right, let's get back to the question.
Terrible.
Of all the players the Cowboys lost in free agency, who will be the hardest to replace?
Oh, I had an answer for that, didn't I? I'm gonna look right now. Oh, Gilmore, Stephon Gilmore. The reason is basically the one is, again, Trayvon Diggs off an injury, so we don't know how he's going to be the first 8 weeks or so. And the second is he just had really good leadership. I felt like him, he was the cooks on that side, and our defense is really young. Like, take DeMarcus Lawrence away, Kendrick's only 1 year. Who's your guy there? Like, your veteran guy, So yeah, and even if you go Kendrick's tank, Gilmore is your secondary guy, So I think Gilmore's leadership, even if he can't play really anymore, and he ended up, not really being a impact player on defense, he can impact with how he speaks and how he talks and how he helps the team prepare.
I like that answer, man. What is your biggest concern heading into the 2024 season?
That is a good question. My biggest worry is how the hell do we two players that have shown a tendency to be very, very good to elite players, depending on which one you're talking about, would always wear down at the end of the year at a time when we had Dorrance and Dante Fowler and Sam Williams and Neville Gallimore and a million other Hankins and others. How the hell do you keep Osa and Parsons from not being dead by the end of the year for the final stretch and end of the playoffs? Like, who's Osa Odighizuwa's backup? Does anybody know who his backup is? Like, it's him and then defensive ends that are going to rotate into play 3 technique. Like, they don't have a backup 3 tech. They don't have one. And then on the other end of Parsons. They did bring in Marshawn, but you got Sam Williams. Hopefully, matures under Zimmer and gets in there. I think Marshawn is more Tank's backup, but like that rotation of guys is gone. And if you're gonna have Micah out there even more than he has been, that's worrisome. And he's the least of the. Osa is much worse. Osa's smaller. He plays in a position that gets beat up. It terrifies me that by week 12 he's going to be done, and you don't know what you have anywhere else at D tackle. You have no idea. So, yeah, that is definitely my biggest concern. Defensive line depth. How do you keep your good players playing great all season long?
Well, as of right now, is this Cowboys team better or worse than last year's?
Okay, so they're worse at running back and DT. That's clearly. And then they're probably, to start the year, losing Tyron Smith. No matter how good Guyton is, he's probably not going to be Tyron early. So I'd say O-line's probably worse. Defensive end, we got to see what the rookie can do and what Sam Williams can do, but they're definitely worse depth-wise. Dorrance Armstrong is an underrated player. Like, he got you the sacks he did for a reason. Even if they're cleanup, somebody's got to get them. And I'd say linebacker, depending on how Overshown comes back from injury, that one, no, linebacker, you're better. Cornerback, that's the one. No Gilmore. So what's Trayvon Diggs? We don't know. Beyond Deron Bland and Jordan Lewis, we kind of don't know. So we're worse at running back, DT, probably O-line, DN, and corner. And we're better at wide receiver, in my opinion, because Gallup leaving opens up targets for people that were getting open better than him. Another year for Cooks under the system, another year for Tolbert. So I would put us better at wide receiver. I think we're better at tight end just because Fergie going in, we know what it is. We know what this is. Fergie's Fergie now. There's no Luke Schoonmaker, second-round pick bullshit or any of that. And then I'd say linebacker with Kendricks, actually a knock-on-wood healthy player that you can count on to play. Overshown coming back. You added Leafau to the room. And safety, you're basically even. You're bringing back the same guys. So I would say they're worse currently, but it's going to depend on players like Sam Williams, Mozzie Smith, Nealon, the guys that they got, Guyton, BB. The last 2 years draft picks, how did they develop and play? And that'll tell you if they actually are better or worse. But on paper, I mean, there's no way you can't say they're worse right now.
That's very fair. Do you like that McCarthy and Prescott are both on prove-it deals?
No, I don't. It makes no sense to me to have your quarterback on a prove-it deal. The guy was second in MVP vote, made an All-Pro team. Like, I get it. He needs to play better in the playoffs, absolutely. But I had somebody on Twitter I read today. Nick was talking to me. He's like, Jordan Love got played, and he's a Cowboys fan. And he's like, oh, good. That guy goes in and wins playoff games. He's young, up and coming. You got to pay that guy. You definitely. And I'm like, he's won one playoff game ever. He's what are we talking about? Like, that can't be the barometer. Dak Prescott's won 2 playoff games. Like, he's won 12 games 3 years in a row. He's been an All-Pro now. He was second in MVP. Like, if we're talking about Trevor Lawrence and Herbert and Love getting paid, like, no, just pay your quarterback. McCarthy's fine. McCarthy can go on 1 year. He didn't earn an extension off last year's playoff game, but that's what McCarthy was brought in for. McCarthy was brought in not to make the playoffs. Garrett did that. It was to pass beyond that. So that should be his grading line. That's not Dak's grading line. Dak's got Dak. We remember before Romo, the crap, or when Romo would get hurt and we were just 4-12. Like, Dak's a good quarterback, man. Just pay him. And the thing is, people that don't want to pay the money because when they have extra money, they don't spend it anyway. If Dak goes at the end of the year, we have a $40 million cap hit the next year from Dak. Do you think they're going to spend any money on anything? No, they're going to use that as an excuse not to spend money. So the rookie quarterback thing, that don't apply for Dallas. They don't spend money anyway.
Yeah, speaking of spending money, if you can only pick one of Dak, Mike, or CD to get re-signed, who would you pick?
I want to see. Oh, okay. So not who's signed first, but you can only sign one and the other two are gone. Damn. Okay. That's rough. Edge is the Dak's the quarterback, so he's an easy one to say yes. But at his age, I'm okay pausing on that and saying, okay, hold on, let me think. CeeDee Lamb would be my choice, but wide receivers so like that you can get so many good wide receivers that makes that questioned. And then Micah is the young one, and he's at probably the position that is other than QB that is like tough to get. You want your edge rushers like that, but he's also lighter. And as his athleticism goes, I don't know if that'll impact his overall play. So I'd probably just go Lamb. Because even though wide receivers come out a lot, there's not a lot of Lamb is in that tier one with Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and him. Those are your four that you pay whatever. You just pay them. They're young, they're studs. Pay them whatever you need to, and move on. So yeah, I think it would be Lamb, young and elite. So let me get him in there.
I'm always going to get this question, apparently. I'm always going to get this question. So, you got to think very carefully on this one, Mike, on how you answer this. But outside of Micah, Dak, and CD, which one of these three players do you think Dallas needs to re-sign first? Jake Ferguson, DaRon Bland, or Osa Odighizuwa?
And I know most of you that know me think I'm going to say DaRon Bland because he's from Fresno State, but I'm not. I think you have at worst, what you can say about Jake Ferguson is he is a top 5 young quarterback, young tight end in the league right now. Top 5 of youth. If you take the Andrews and the Kelseys and the Kittles out, the older ones, you would go, well, Sam Laporta, Hawkinson, Fergie. He's right in there. So Kit Pitts, them. So for me, that's who I'm lining up. I mean, he has the attitude I want as a leader of the team. He's a beast. I seen him just absolutely. He should have retired Jamal Adams. I don't know why somebody's bringing that guy back after what happened to him that game. And the thing about Osa, who I love and plays the position really well, he wears down already after 12 games, and he's going into year 4. Like, he's a smaller DT, and he's good, but he's not great. Like, I don't know if I'd pay him, other than the fact that it's like, damn, we don't have anybody else. Do we want to risk not having anybody? He's not one that if Mozzie came out and showed out this year, where I'd be like, oh, okay, we got to bring Osa back. Like, good player, great metrics, his win rates and stuff are great, but he just doesn't make enough impact plays for me to want to pay him the way you'd have to pay a defensive tackle like that. So Fergie's my guy. I don't. You pay Diggs. If Diggs comes back, Bland, if he stays, he stays. If you want to pay a second corner, great. If you don't, you want to go Carson or Eric Scott, I get it. You got your one All-Pro. Fergie, you got to get. He's a stud. Yeah,
I'm not sure how many too many people would argue with that. I think I'd probably go with DaRon Bland, but not mad at re-signing Ferguson either. Which player not named Micah Parsons are you most excited to see in Mike Zimmer's defense?
Say that one more time.
Which player are you most excited to see play in Mike Zimmer's defense not named Micah Parsons?
It wouldn't even be Micah Parsons anyway. And I got to go Overshown because that's my guy. You know, there's a lot of homers that when Cowboys draft a guy, no matter what they said about him before, they're like, this guy could do everything and be the best player. Like kill Guyton for forever. He's the 7th rated tackle. And then Cowboys drafted, it's like, well, now he's fast and long, and the way Mannyweather has him now, this kid could be special. Before the draft ever happened, I put on a thing. I had DeMarvion Overshown as a 3rd round project that I put in the thing could be the best defensive player in the entire draft if he gets the right coaching and the right development. And then we drafted him. So, yeah, I want that for multiple reasons, selfish reasons. I want to watch him because I want him to be a stud, because then not only did my team get him, but I was right about him, and we see where he goes from there.
He's got his own jersey, and he's just going to be wearing that the entire time if Overshown like pops off this year.
Overshown, I need to get Bland first, though, because Fresno State. I got to get Bland's jersey.
Are you sure it's in the shop? Because I know Fergie's just came in like right after the playoff game.
I am not buying
So,
anything
yeah,
this year. Why would I pay for anything that Dallas hasn't paid for anybody?
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm not gonna tell them to, like, if they would have went out and got friggin' Glover Stewart and, you know, like Shire, you know, the linebacker, or Wagner even, which they missed on, which we'll get to later, Cowboys Beef. You know, then maybe I put some money in. But if they're not putting money in, fuck them. I'm not buying their jerseys and shit.
I feel attacked. I just wanted a little bit of happiness after, you know, being at one of the worst games I've ever watched in my entire life.
No, you get no happiness.
Yeah.
Should have known what was going to happen if I was a guest.
That's fair. That's fair. Which one of the Cowboys players is your make or break player?
Okay, so I did one defense, one offense, Golston and Tolbert.
Golston.
I kind of feel bad for Golston because they kind of Crawforded him, go back, go forth, go back, go forth. But we got to see what's up with you, because we got Osa in a contract year. Fihoko we know nothing about. Everybody else on the defensive line is 7th round picks and undrafted free agents. So you got to make it or break it. And Tolbert, like, if now ain't the time, dude, like, you should be battling for wide receiver 2 right now. You were a 3rd round pick that a lot of us, Bobby Belt, me and stuff, were like, draft him over Sam Williams. You know, we like Sam Williams. I wasn't a shot at Sam Williams. That's just how much we like Tolbert. That at that pick, I would have been good getting Tolbert. And, man, how bad. That would have been another 2nd round woof if they would have went that way.
Yeah, interesting one. I'd like to see. I'm excited to see what Golston can do, but I don't know, to consider him a make or break player. I find that interesting.
Well, make or break as in, if he don't do nothing, what am I keeping you around for?
Yeah, I hear you.
That's a fun pick. That's a fun pick, though.
Yeah, I like the Tolbert pick better, honestly. But yeah, both picks are fun. So, Mike, after 8 years and only 2 playoff wins, is it time to move on from Dak?
I would say that I would understand if they did, you know, but I don't believe you do. I don't believe you get away from a quarterback that wins you 12 games regularly the way he does. He's done a bunch of shit that other quarterbacks haven't done here in 30 years. So I wouldn't personally. I'm running another 5-year contract, and I'm seeing if we can get this team over the hump. But I'm not going to kill them. Like, I get mad at the Jones family and the front office enough for the shit they do. I'm not going to get mad if they're like, hey, analytics got to them and they said, hey, we need to get a cheap quarterback and build around them. And as long as they're going to pay free agents and do that, terrific. Let's go. You know, I'm okay with it, but I wouldn't move on from him. I'm keeping that.
Well, going off of that, would you pay him this offseason, or would you wait until next offseason to pay him?
I'd have already paid him. You have so many holes on this roster you could have filled by paying him. Like, even now, there's players, there's defensive tackles you could go out and add a couple of bodies, get people in shape, get them ready. I know you want to see snaps of Daxton and Rogers and Mozzie, and I get that, but get some guys in here that are vets and get them in shape just in case those young guys aren't ready.
Use one word to describe Dak Prescott's career.
Respectable. 4th round pick. Went to a team. Tony Romo gets hurt, takes over, never gives the job back up. Has won playoff games with us. Has gotten us to high records. He's never had a losing season, and he's never been talented like Josh Allen. He has to play the position better than Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, because he doesn't have their arm. He doesn't have Allen's legs. He doesn't have the gifts that a lot of those quarterbacks have. So for him to be an all-pro, it's just him processing better, getting the ball out quicker, seeing the blitz, reacting to the blitz, doing things better. And yeah, the reason it's not elite or great or Hall of Fame is because he needs to do that in the playoffs. But respectable works. 4th round pick, started for the hardest job in the world to do, be in sports, all the scrutiny and everything. And then the team that you went to hadn't won in 20 plus years when you got there. And so now all that's dumped on you. And all you do is go out and have winning seasons and get your team to the playoffs. And then now you just need to add the playoff success.
Much different from when it went last week with that answer.
Yeah. We couldn't think of one. And finally I looked up what my thought process was. I put the words in my Google bar, and then I put a word similar to this. And respectable came up, and I was like, I like it.
That's what our preface is for last week. When I said mid, it was because that's what Dre was going towards, like when he was looking for a word.
Yeah.
I don't think Dak's career has been mid. I have not. I've defended that man plenty of times on Twitter and everything. So I just had to preface that out there. But fill in the blank, Mike. If blank is a breakout year, the Cowboys will be Super Bowl contenders.
I'll give you each. Give me what you think I'm going to say. What would be your guess at what I'm going to say? Go ahead, Brenden, you first.
Mozzie,
okay. Paul, you got same name or different name?
No, I'll say I don't know if this would be considered a breakout year, but Tyler Guyton.
Tyler Guyton's a good one. Mozzie, obviously, a good one. How about this, boys? Deuce Vaughn.
What?
Think about it.
Yeah.
You want them to be this guy breaks out and you're a Super Bowl contender. Imagine what a like if Deuce Vaughn breaks out 1,000-yard back or 1,000 total yards, some receiving, some rushing, and he's able to run behind that line and be Darren Sproles-esque or Eckler-esque like that. If you got that in this offense with Ferg and Cooks and Dak and Lamb, and then you're able to run the ball and Micah and those 2 all-pro corners, a new linebacker room, I think and you could have added Rico Dowdle, I could have said too, but I was like, I think it's more fun to have it be Deuce Vaughn because it'd be a legit oh shit, Deuce Vaughn in his second year came up, So yeah, any running back, but Deuce would be my fun one.
Now I said this, the exact same thing. I don't know if it was last night in the short or the night before after PFF or no ESPN ranked Cowboys running backs the worst in the NFL. I said that if Deuce Vaughn, could just he could be the difference maker for this offense. He could elevate this offense.
Look at us. See? We were on the same page.
Brenden, what are your thoughts on that?
Answer. I just don't see them using him at all. If what we saw from the preseason, their running scheme is still going to be running up the middle and that's
But
gonna be
what
they
would
do.
it mean? Think of what it would mean if he broke out. The only way he's breaking out is if they're calling really good plays for him and the line is being really good blocking for him. So
I just
that
don't
is
trust the coaching staff.
my point of saying his name is like, well, if that dude's able to break out with what we know in the running game limitations, the only way he breaks out is if they call better run plays and it's blocked way, way better. And so that was kind of my thought process of, well, if that happens, now we're cooking with fish grease, as Aisha Morrison would say.
No, that's a really fun choice, and if it does happen, I'll be ecstatic. I don't see the coaching staff thinking anything will work for them.
It's not.
But that would be insane. This podcast would be pretty fun on some episodes. That's how it works.
If Deuce Vaughn were to break out, that would say not just a lot about Deuce Vaughn and the coaching staff, but just about what this team did this season.
I would ask for. I would be like, if you could tell me one guy that I could set, like, you can't go like 2,000 yards or nothing, but like I could go, all right, one guy that's gonna have like Sam Williams gonna have 8 sacks and 10 tackles for a loss, or Mozzie's gonna have one of the best run stop win rates. One of my early guys would be Deuce Vaughn has over 600 yards rushing and over 400 yards receiving. And I would be like, oh, we're on fire as an offense.
If our running backs combined had like 1,800 total yards and 15 touchdowns, you'd be like, man, we had a good season running the ball.
Yeah, and they have enough to do it if the play calling and the line works out. Zeke's your short yardage guy. Rico Dowdle's your every down back, and Deuce is your change of pace back.
On my fantasy pod last week, my bold prediction was that Deuce Vaughn would have 30 or more receptions.
All right, I like it.
So
let's go.
I'd love to see Deuce Vaughn have a breakout year, man. All right, Mikey, squash your beef. I'm excited to hear this. Here you have 2 to 5 minutes to squash any beef you have with a Cowboys player, coach, or a content creator.
Okay, well, this is going. I'm going to go the front office. I mean, yeah. I hate the way they. You know which one really irritates me? Which one really made me mad? The one that like threw it over the top is when Dan Quinn goes to the Commanders. This man has a first-round pick already invested at linebacker. Goes out and gets maybe the top name out in Frankie Louvu, and then still brings Bobby Wagner in. Yeah. Like, so we know now that it wasn't Quinn going, nah, we don't, I don't need Wagner here. He ain't got it no more. Like, we know it wasn't that, because he went right away and got him as like the extra guy. Like, their third guy is Wagner is R1. Like, Wagner and Kendricks are around the same. And he's like 3. He's like their third guy. And it's stuff like that. My beef with them is that they'll go cheap. LVE, we all knew was an injury concern. Oh, Tyron Smith before him. Sean Lee before him. And they would always be like, you know what, we're going to get him. We'll get him a little bit cheap because people aren't going to want him because of his injury history. And if he hits, now we got a great bargain. Instead of just going, you know what, Bobby Wagner's not a ton of money. Let's get a guy we know is going to play every game. Because guess what? If Bobby Wagner's on this team last year, not LVE, he plays. It's 99% sure he doesn't get injured because he just plays all the time. Okay, now how's Damone Clark do? Because you know what happens to Damone Clark when he has LVE on the field? Tell me he hasn't played great with LVE. When somebody's out there going, hey, watch this. He's the fastest and biggest guy we have. He's just not great instincts-wise. So if you can get somebody to go, watch for this. Hey, they're doing this screen, draw play. Okay, Bobby Wagner would be better than LVE at that. So now you have Damone Clark playing well. Then you don't have a smaller guy like Marquise Bell playing middle linebacker. And if Jaron Kearse is hurt or playing like crap, Marquise Bell can come in and play that role. Then when you go into Green Bay, you don't have Jordan Love afterwards going, well, you had a safety playing linebacker. So they were like, we're just going to attack this. We know what we need to do. They have Bobby Wagner they have to deal with. They got Damone Clark running and hitting like a machine because he's guided He's a guided missile by Bobby Wagner. But just because they were like, well, let's try to get this bargain on LVE, and they do it all the time. They pay their hurt guys because they can get it at a discount. Well, we don't have to pay them top of the market coming off of the injury, minus Dak Prescott. And it just Terrence Steele, Michael Gallup, you pay them. They could have easily let Michael Gallup walk and kept Amari Cooper. They could have. That could have been their decision. I'm not saying it's what they should have done, but they could have, and instead they paid the injured guy. Terrence Steele, injured guy. Pollard, franchise tag and injured guy. So they make decisions like that. They take dumb risks. And I hate that because it's like everything has to go so well for you to be a contender. You have Dak who keeps you in it, and then the news media says, oh, look at this roster. They got 9 all-pros, this and that. And then you run into a team in the playoffs that's really good. Now, you were better than Green Bay. That was a players thing. I'll admit that. That was players and coaches, not really Jerry. They should have beat Green Bay. They had a team to beat Green Bay. But even if not, when you got to the Niners and the Eagles and the higher up teams, these last couple of years, you run into Noah Brown's your wide receiver 2. You run into Marquise Bell's your middle linebacker. You run into that. And it just, that's my beef. It's just for once go, and then they Stephen Jones was like, well, we went all in last year because you made trades that the Eagles make trades like Gilmore and Cooks in the middle of the year to like, oh, let's bring a guy. That was you thought you were going all in on that? That was what you thought was all in? They're so bad at everything but drafting. Like now they're not even good at re-signing their own players anymore. Like, what are you doing if you're not signing free agents, which they don't? We know they don't. Why aren't you just signing these 3 players? Like that's how it works. Do you know why? Like people going, well, you can't sign all 3. Well, why? Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, corner, 2 offensive linemen, Eagles, Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Lane Johnson. Like they went out and got AJ Brown. They weren't signing their own guy. They went and got him. They went out and got Hassan Reddick. We're just trying to get our 3 guys that are, Stephen Jones, well, we paid this guy. Yeah, on your team, you didn't go out and get anybody. You pay the guys, and then other teams do that. And then when they lose a guy, they go out in free agency and get somebody to replace him. So I just hate the way our front office thinks and executes game plans in their re-signings and free agency. I think they're pretty poor at it.
Going back to the linebacker thing, I read your article a couple of weeks ago about the linebackers in the division, and seeing Bobby Wagner's numbers, dude, from his previous season, dude, just unbelievable.
And he didn't even make a lot of money. The easiest decision in the world was to get, and I like Leighton Vander Esch, but I told everybody, I go, even if I thought Leighton Vander Esch at this point was better than Bobby Wagner, even if you could convince me that, I know Bobby Wagner is going to play. Fact, the guy just hasn't missed games. It's just, he doesn't get injured like that. LVE is he's always injured. It was a miracle you got him through that 1 year, just like Tyron Smith the 1 year. That stuff you can't always bet on that to go through. Well, this year right now, they're going, well, we hope a rookie left tackle. We hope one of these wide receivers step up. We hope our defensive tackles, and not just Mozzie. I'm not saying, we hope Mozzie, because if Mozzie and Osa are elite, who's coming in for them? Even if they're the 2 of the best in their position, period, and you got 4 guys that are monsters, okay, who's rotating in? We have no idea. Linebacker, injured guy. Trayvon Diggs, he going to be better? If he's not, who's playing? Deron Bland, Jordan Lewis, and Kalen Carson? Eric Scott Jr.? Like, there's just too many where you're sitting there going, well, hopefully, if things work out, hopefully we'll be able to contend with Niners who have, a 4th lineman, a 4th DT that's better than our starter. Like, it's frustrating how they build the team, especially now that they're not re-signing their big names, like getting that done right away.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, here we are with Would You Rather. And this, I'm really interested to see how you answer this one. This is not football or Cowboys related at all. Would you rather have Cheeto dust fingers for a month or sweat mayonnaise for a week?
Cheeto dust fingers.
Even with as much as you have to work on your laptop and
I just
play
don't
your
work that
game
week.
and like
I just don't work that week.
like
hey guys,
making
I'm
your
gonna be
bed
off
and
the,
going to the
I'm gonna be off
bathroom
the
and
podcast. I got
touching
Cheeto dust
food.
fingers.
Everything you do has Cheeto dust. Like everything you touch has a Cheeto dust mark on it.
Sweat and mayonnaise though. Dude, today painting, bro, painting today. Okay. So I showered before I went to Home Depot. I showered, got good, sprayed some Chanel, everything. I was or whatever this is. Yeah, blue Chanel. So I sprayed that, looking good, smelling good. 90 minutes into painting, I'm like, what the fuck is that? I know I'm sweating, but God, no, it was horrible. Like I was smelling horrible. Like, no, I do not like sweating stuff. No, and mayonnaise all thick and no. I don't want that. I don't like. I get to where I sweat to where I have to like peel the shirt off. It's 111 degrees here. It's 106 right now at 8 p.m. It's gross.
That's nasty. That's terrible.
Cheeto dust fingers.
All right, Mike. Share your 3 favorite Cowboy social media accounts, websites, and/or content creators.
Okay, so let's start with No C, but not for what you think. He just started doing wrestling. I'm a wrestling guy. I'm going to get off this and watch Monday Night Raw. KD Drummond, also my boss at Cowboys Wire, he's been doing wrestling stuff. So it's so cool for wrestling to feel like it's back, like old school 90s. So No C, which is at Voice of the Star, Patrick No C Walker. You guys, if you're Dallas fans, you know who that is. But for his wrestling is what I'm shouting him out for. I also want to shout out Foots the King. I did it online today, and I did it on his comments page. It's a dead time right now. There's no training camp and everything. And so when I'm working out, I'm listening to shows. I'm trying to get content. This guy's had shows with Vach, Broadus, Aisha Morrison, Kavanaugh. Like, he's just killing it right now. So I want to make sure to shout him out. He is well known, but like he's not Vach and Skywalker, and he kind of should be. He's good. He's good dude. He's I'll say he's a little homery. He'll go a little homery with Dallas. But what's wrong with that? If he's a fan and wants to go homery with it, I'm for it. Just keep putting out that great content. He probably never sees this, but he's killing the game right now. So congrats to him. And then I want to put Wedge Buster 88. I don't always agree with everything he says Dallas-wise. He's on a trade Micah kick right now. I don't know if I do that. But he has some of the, like, me and him go back and forth because we're older and we have, like, older person's thoughts when it comes to dating. And, like, we get along well with the way our brains work when it comes to dating and sex and stuff like that. I like a little bit more soft body. He's a little bit more bodybuilder types because that's what he is, and I'm a chunky butt. So, but when you like, I'll see something that's just totally inappropriate and instantly tag Wedge in it, like, okay, Wedge, what's your thoughts? And just wait for him to respond. And he's probably my favorite person to go back and forth with. And we almost never talk Dallas, ever. So follow him. He's a good Dallas guy. He'll keep it real with you now, but he's also super fun. But if you're like super woke though, like, avoid. And if you are super woke, don't follow him now trying to like catch us and shit like that. Like, it's better just to skip over us. If that ain't your thing, no problem. No problem with that. But we're kind of offensive, so just avoid.
All right, Mike, give us a bold call, Cowboys edition.
Bold call. Okay, so under Dak and Mike McCarthy, they have not had sustained success in the postseason, but they have won 3 years, 12 wins. No other Dallas team's done that. They won a playoff game on the road, first time in 30 years. So my bold prediction is if it's the last thing they do as Cowboys, they're going to break the streak of division titles not winning back-to-back. Dallas will win the division this year. It'll be the first team in 20-something years, whatever, to win the division back-to-back. And Dak will be able to add that to his accolades while everybody tells him he sucks. He'll be the team that won the division back-to-back, the team that won 12 games 3 straight years. He'll be the quarterback that won a playoff game for the first time in 30 years, and half the fan base will hope we don't sign him.
I like that one. All right, Mike, where can we, what kind of content are you creating right now, and where can we find it, sir?
Cowboys Wire will have an article coming up ranking the DB units in the NFC East. I have done every position group. If you want to go back, just go to Cowboys Wire, click on my name, and you'll see from quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive line, tight end, defensive line, linebackers, and secondary should be coming out. I'm also going to do another article that's based on guys who should have good opportunities to have breakout years and my reasoning behind why I believe that is. And I just started to outline that now. So give me sometime this week, and then Katie's got to edit it and everything. This podcast, I will be back on as the co-host, hopefully next week. And that's basically it. CD Piglet on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram's all Disney shit, so don't go on there for Dallas. But if you want food or Disneyland stuff, you can catch that on at CD Piglet on Instagram.
Yes, sir, Mike. We appreciate you taking the time, man. It was fun having you on the other side.
Best guest ever was Mitch Crum, but I was up there. I was close.
Brenden, where can we find you on X, sir?
You can find me at Brenden_Smith26.
Guys, I'm Paul Ryan. You can find me on X at Paul_Ryan15. We appreciate you joining us, and we will see you guys next week.
Man, what a great guest you guys had. Good job today.